But okay, we gotta mention this one now. Okay, all of the show built up, of course, to the end of the show where they announced Game of the Year. But prior to that, Jeff led into a final announcement, making it clear that it was the final announcement. Okay, so this was not like, I think, too confusing. They also had a couple of other smaller things like this solo leveling Arise Overdrive. So they had some like that. But then we get to this. Okay, this is how Jeff leads it in. Some of you were saying in chat that when you saw this, you thought it might be Elder Scrolls. Which honestly, I think if you see this and you're like, fantasy, we're on a coast, you might miss like the blimp looking thing, airship. Like that's, probably not Elder Scrolls. Maybe it is, but I could see how somebody could see this and be like, maybe. It's the last thing. Everybody knows you save your best for last. Right, Jeffrey, right? But it shows this.
Sometimes our last reveal at the Game Awards is a teaser for something years and years away.
Jeffrey. I was like, are they about to shadow drop something? Are they about to like I was trying to figure it out.
At Mondo Merc 18 donated $10 through Super Chat. I got Total War 40K, Fate of the Old Republic, new Larian announcement, free E33 DLC, and drunk, so I personally had a great time.
And drunk. Well, that sounds awesome. And to be clear, the point I'm about to make over the course of the next elongated section is that it was a good show. I think that this reveal just shows how crucial ordering and pacing is. Because I'm a firm believer, if they had shown what we're about to see early in the show, and they like swapped places with the Larian game. Larian finishes the show. This is early on. I don't think any of this discourse would be happening. I think the specific problem is that they set this up as like the one last amazing thing, because the last announcement is supposed to be like the big thing. It's supposed to be your best foot forward. Like, this is how you're finishing the show. This is how you're leaving them. And that raises the bar and raises the expectation. And it doesn't just raise the bar and expectation in the context of the show. It also raises the expectation for the game itself, which is why people like online have been saying, I think Jeff might have just killed this game. They might not be wrong. That game being the final thing has put so much attention on it that I think it's actually going to be significantly harder for it to break in. At least there's a lot of name recognition right now, but still, like, I think they are fighting an extra uphill battle now because there's a lot of negativity around it, because it was the last thing, and most people feel that it didn't really deserve it. So Jeff leads into it by saying that this was the last thing. It's typically when we're about to show the last thing at the Game Awards. So this is the last thing is what he's claiming. So people's expectations are raising. This is how you're going to finish the show. So that's the first staging. Then he says, we usually show something that's years away. Oh, so this isn't. This is going to be immediate. So again, expectations are rising even further. Okay.
Not tonight. Our final world premiere comes from 61 members of the team that built Apex Legends and Titanfall.
When I heard that, I was like, huh? Okay. What are we doing? And because for one, 61 developers is a fairly intimate team. It's fairly small, by modern standards at least. And former Titanfall and Apex Legends devs. So people were thinking maybe this is a spiritual successor to Titanfall or something.
4 years ago, the principals founded a new independent studio with the hopes of pushing the shooter genre forward with a new original game.
Shooter genre forward with a new original game. So already people are like, okay, maybe it's a Titanfall spiritual successor. That, I think, is what a lot of people started clicking and thinking.
Done it in complete secrecy, which is even more amazing because the game is very deep into development. The power of independent self-published studios to push...
Dude, one of the most savage comments we read last night was on the official YouTube page for this trailer. And the guy simply quoted Jeff and said, they've done it in complete secrecy. And he just said, it didn't leak because nobody even cared enough to leak it. I was like, oh my God, dude, you just gutted him in front of his family. Like, what on earth? Savage, dude, savage. But what's crazy is that
Gabriel Mays 9872 donated $10 through Super Chat.
not wrong.
Why do you think so many people are upset at Expedition 33 winning everything?
I think it was just like very predictable. And I you know, there's some little awards where I think that personally, I think there was a better alternative. Like, I personally think that KCD2 should have won Best RPG. And because KCD2 is such a different RPG than Expedition is, I feel like they're not even competing in the same category. So that one just felt weird. So there's some of that. And it's also, people like to be contrarians, you know? Everybody's rooting for Expedition 33 when it's competing against Ghost of Yotei, you know, the big AAA thing from Sony. But when it wins everything, it's like, okay, so now they're at the top, so now it's easier to go at it. So, you know, it's probably just being silly, but, you know, they deserve a lot of the wins. I just think RPG should have gone to KCD2. Personally, just my opinion. Cancel me, I don't care. Anyway, continuing on. So you can see how the expectations have been raised higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, and then he's going to lead into what the game actually is.
This medium forward is a growing and I think positive theme in our industry. And so tonight, you're not only going to get the announcement of the game, but also your first look at the gameplay.
And again, like, that's framed as like some big thing. A lot of the games we saw tonight showed gameplay for the first time with the trailer. So it's like, is this really that special?
I've played it, and after you see this trailer, I think you're going to want to as well. Welcome to Highguard.
So going into this, we were like, what? This is the last reveal? Because already I'm like, it's not what I would have expected. Like, this is as the final reveal. I'm like, okay, but then it's revealed very quickly that this is a multiplayer live service game. And it was like, oh. And you can tell by the audience. Did you hear how slow the clap started?
Welcome to Highguard.
Into lands uncharted.
Immediately saw the haircut. Like I said earlier in the stream, you see the haircut, you know it's live service. You know, there's the live service due. I don't know what it is, but bro, so many of these games, like, it's also the girls that have also like the pixie cut high and tight. I don't know what it is, but live service games have like 3 haircuts they share for everybody, and it's so funny to me. I don't know what the meta is, why they all have the same haircuts, but that's just how it is. It's weird. But they show this, okay.
And dangers untold.
The airship coming in, okay.
I venture without fear. And ride without rest.
Horses.
For coin or for cause. I fight.
And so then they show this. Now, all last night, I was trying to figure out what on earth is like specific and fresh about this, because they said they wanted to push the shooting genre forward. And I failed, even now, I failed to see what is unique about this. It appears that literally it's the horses, a new breed of shooter. I think they mean the horses. I think you guys are right, because other than that, like, everything we see is extremely standard. It's possible it's also, people say that it looks like it also has MOBA elements, so it's like a MOBA inspired hero shooter. Is that really enough to like make this pop off? Like, it looks like, people said Valorant. It doesn't look like Valorant to me, because again, like, characters are moving while they're shooting. So this is not like a tactical shooter in the same way that like Valorant is. It looks to me like Concord with horses. Like, and I'm sorry if that's reductive or like mean, but like, bro, it just does. If it looks like a quack, I can't talk. It broke my brain. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, and certainly if it looks like a quack, it's probably a freaking duck, you know? And in this case, if it looks like a Concord and plays like a Concord and is marketed like a Concord, where everybody's acting like it's the second coming, and then it just seems like the most generic thing ever, like, that's literally an ability from Valorant. Whatever the chick is with the blades, like, this is straight up a Cassidy animation and archetype. Like, I just don't understand what is so special about it. I guess maybe the destruction. You can break some buildings apart. I hate to break it to you, that's been a thing in a lot of games. Like, yeah, Jet, that's it. Play free January 26, 2026. Like, I just don't understand. And then like we come back to Jeff and this is how he frames it.
Pretty crazy, that's right. Highguard launches in just 7 weeks on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. It is insanely fun to see, fun to play, as you saw in that trailer. And now it's time for our final award. Last year, Astrobot took home Game of the Year.
And then he goes straight into Game of the Year award, and that's it. Like, I don't understand it. It feels very out of touch to think that that would excite people, you know, to feel like that would get people giddy. I just don't think that that connects with people in the same way that like a big reveal typically does. Again, like how they finished it in 2024. This is how he introduced it last year.
Now, because tonight is such a special show, we do have one more thing. One of our industry's most celebrated developers has been hard at work in complete secrecy, building a brand new original world unlike anything they've done before. What you're about to see is captured entirely in the game engine. And we're happy to share with you tonight's final world premiere at the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards.
So he frames it in a very similar way, but in this case, it was a studio that was like one of the industry's most celebrated. Whereas this year, it was a brand new studio nobody's ever heard of. Like it starts, and I think this is the reason why it started to tick people off last night, because it felt undeserved. You know, that final slot in the show is typically what's reserved for showcasing something from like From Software, Naughty Dog, you know, like a studio that has been making world-class games for a decade or 2 decades, you know? And so to lead off with a studio nobody's ever heard of, and it's a hero shooter live service, it feels like it was bought. You know, it feels like they just had the biggest stack of cash, which is why they got to put their game there.
At Chavanbus1759 donated $10 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
I was browsing the PS Store and saw the game Predecessor, and legit thought they released Highguard early.
Highguard early. Hold on, what's that one? You said it's called Predecessor? Okay. So it's also like a mobile or a MOBA thing. Might end up playing similarly. I will say Highguard does look better than this, like graphically, but it does look like a very different type of game. That's funny though. But the point is, this is how like they led into it, and I know there's gonna be people that are freaking out because like I'm suggesting that Intergalactic's reveal is a big deal. It is. Like, it is. It's from freaking Naughty Dog, dude. Like, do you have any idea who you're talking about? Like, it's Naughty Dog. Oh, but I didn't like how they killed Joel. It's Naughty Dog. It's a big reveal to get their game at the Game Awards. That's a big deal. It's a big reveal, a big get, you know? Even if you don't like the games, it's a big get. And so to put a game nobody's ever heard of, or a game from a studio nobody's ever heard of in that slot, I think naturally left people feeling kind of surprised. Now, their approach for marketing this is going to be interesting. It's set for release in January. I think they're going to be doing play tests and stuff. But I mean, even now, dude, the official page has 567 subscribers. It just feels like one of those games that I'm sorry, these random pictures of Jeff are just so funny to me. I'm sorry, it's just I do like me some random pictures of Jeff. You know, it just feels I can't even look at it. I'm sorry. It just I think again the game probably is not bad. It probably is pretty solid. Even Concord, this is gonna come as a shock. I played Concord. I'm one of the people that did. Concord was not like a poorly made game. The problem was it just came out like 5-6 years too late. Oh wait, it's another. I think I still have 2024 playing. I think Concord released like half a decade too late. If it had released in like 2018, I think it would have popped off, but it just released way too late. And I think that this is one of those things where like it's probably a really solidly put together game, talented devs, like they know what they're doing, but it's not what people wanted out of the final announcement. And I think it's also just when you hype something up so much, if it doesn't meet that standard to people immediately, they kind of flip and become antagonistic towards it, which I think is what's happening now, unfortunately for them. Like, I think that because of where they announced it and how they announced it, it set those expectations really high. Now, my understanding is that this is going to be free to play, so people will be able to try it for free. That will help it a lot stand a chance. It's still an uphill battle, but at least that will help it, as opposed to what like Concord did, where they tried to charge $40 for it, which I think was a mistake. So I think that they stand a better chance of finding some success, but it's going to be really interesting to see if it's still going next year. But even now, like, I'm pretty sure Moistcritkal just made a video on this game. Like, he already just made a video. What did he say?
And there was a stat that chat was regurgitating that I didn't believe. I thought it was so outlandish they must have escaped from a mental institution and were spewing a bunch of mumbo jumbo until I checked and verified the authenticity. The claim was that last year's Game Awards had higher viewership than the Super Bowl. And I said, well, that's a bunch of fiddlesticks, no way. Super Bowl had like 120-something million viewers. It was like the most watched Super Bowl ever. No way the Game Awards beat that. Turns out it did. Jeff Keighley hung his hog on the Super Bowl numbers. 154 million.
Hung his hog. That's a good term. I might have to use that. That's crazy. Higher viewership than the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm sure they're also including, across all channels worldwide. So that also includes people like me who are co-streaming it. Also included there, but that's crazy.
Million global viewers. Now, Super Bowl is an event that mainly only Americans care about. I get that. Game Awards is international, but even still, those numbers blew my fucking mind, blew my ass out. So it is like a super big deal, and I watch the Game Awards every year, but had no idea it was this big. And now that I have this knowledge locked away in the old steel trap up here, it makes the Game Awards final reveal from last night even more odd, just peculiar, because it is a blunder. That is the most important final reveal. And last night, boy howdy did that one fall flat, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people have criticized Jeff Keighley, like playfully teasing about how he'll overhype things that don't warrant that level of glaze or, anticipation, where Jeff Keighley will sometimes, get you like biting your nails like, holy shit, what's he about to reveal? Because he's hyping it up so much. Like, in my numerous decades in the industry, I've never been this excited. This is my honor, my privilege. This is the apotheosis of gaming. I present to you the world premiere for The Poop That Took a Pee 2. As he's starting to get like tears in his eyes.
The Poop That Took a Pee by Leopold Butterscotch. I will say he did get me last night. There was one announcement where Jeff got me good. It was this one.
I'd like to welcome back an icon, a legend who pushes entertainment forward with each of their new projects. Someone I consider a dear friend.
You're like Kojima. It's Kojima. It's got to be, right?
Friend of the show. Please welcome Miss Piggy.
At Edgar Vasquez 9580 donated $10
Like, he
through
got me.
Super Chat. I heard that Jeff is charging $450K to advertise your game at the Game Award. You think the last spot is worth more, thus having that wet fart of a game last?
You think the last spot is worth more, thus having that wet fart of a game last? I think so. It was reported by Kotaku, is what you're referring to, that I believe it was 60-second spot was $450, all the way up to a 3-minute trailer, including the like announcement and lead in. 3-minute trailer is like over $1 million. That's what was reported by Kotaku, at least. And let me be clear. Let me defend Jeff on this. These shows are stupid expensive. Okay. They're renting out the Peacock Theater. They're hiring Miss Piggy. They're flying in like those movie stars or whatever. I'm sure they're flying in, probably, right? Or maybe the studio is paying for them to go in. Who knows? But this is a very expensive show, and like the infrastructure to do it is ridiculous. Okay, so I'm not saying that Jeff should be charging $10. They have to pay for the show somehow. I get that. I think the unfortunate reality is that it also can sometimes price out some studios from even attending. Notably, like Expedition 33, they reportedly bought a lot of the tickets that they had in those front rows. They bought them for like $300 to $400 a piece because they wanted more of the studio to attend. And so it starts to feel very corporate and very much like a money-making operation as opposed to just being about the games. And I think that's a feeling that's happened many times. Like 2 years ago, one of the shows was like, they had a whole section where like every trailer was for like mobile gacha games and like NFT games. It just felt weird. It felt gross and like inappropriate. And so I think that this is like a recurring theme that people throw a fit about for sure. But I do think it's they got to pay for it somehow. They have to find a way to pay the bills. That being said, I think that's also part of the reason why people were looking at that announcement for Highguard so critically to start, because it doesn't make sense that that's what Jeff would put last, unless you look at it through the lens of maybe they just paid a crap ton of money to get that final spot. And they're like, we want everybody to be paying attention to our trailer, so let's do it. Now, a fair counter is people saying, do they even have the money to do that? That is actually like a very legitimate thing to bring up, I think. Wildlight is the studio. If we go to their website, I don't see a partnered publisher. All of their contact stuff is through their own company. So maybe they got outside investment or something. But like, if we're talking about a $2-3 million trailer, do they really have the money to do that? It's possible that Jeff really did think that this was going to like pop off and was going to be the coolest announcement to finish the show, which to me seems crazy when you have Larian's next game and you did that statue thing. But it's potentially the case that like Jeff actually thought that that was the best game to finish the show with. I don't know. As far as I can tell, it's either that Jeff just grossly misunderstood the audience, misread the audience, or they paid the most for it. I don't know. Also, holy God, where can I get that statue? Do you see that statue? Is it? No, is it? I don't think that's Simon. It looks like Nameless King. Yeah, thank you. It looks like Nameless King, does it not? Maybe it's not. It looks like Nameless King because that's the dragon, I think. It looks really cool. Whatever that statue is. It looks really cool. I think he has the same Titus statue I have. That one right there, I think is that statue right there behind Todd. I think it's the same one. It looks like the same. He has the hammer and he's stomping on the... Yeah, I think it's the same one. Anyway, and now they paid $1 million for an almost entirely negative comment section. Some people are tone deaf to the wants of the public. Well, I mean, it does feel kind of weird. Like one of the things I talked about the other day was like the colossal flop of King of Meat. Trevor clipped it and did a very good job with it. It's on Luke Stevens Clips, which if you're not subbed to the third channel, check it out because Trevor's been killing it over there. Small segments that don't make it into the live channel or main channel end up over here, and Trevor does a great job cutting these together. But basically, like with this one, it was a game I tried at Summer Games Fest. I thought it was fine. It just was way too easy, so it felt like a kid's game. And so the way that they chose to market it for its launch in October was to announce it and release it with the help of Mr. Beast. So they spent God knows how many millions of dollars hiring Mr. Beast to bring all of these like 30, 40 something year old influencers who typically play Roblox and Minecraft, brought them all together into this custom built studio where they all played the game together. This video did like 7 million views, and like no joke, I showed in the clip, they ended up, their developers, so the executives of the studio said they expected 100,000 concurrent players. They ended up with a peak of 320. And that wasn't even the day of the Mr. Beast collab. The Mr. Beast collab was right here. They gained 50 players on Steam from a 7 million view Mr. Beast video. Like that's bad. They wanted this number to be 100,000. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I think that this is part of the problem, is that some of these people that they hire for marketing do not understand the gaming industry, because they thought that Mr. Beast would like lead them to the players they needed. They didn't need the Roblox kids to play their game. They're playing Roblox. They didn't need the Minecraft kids to come over and play. They're playing Minecraft, and you're not going to get them to leave to come play this. They needed the people with expendable income who are looking for a fun party game with their friends. But they totally misunderstood. I think it's a little botted. I mean, bro, I didn't say that Mr. Beast's views are botted. I didn't say that. But like literally 7 million view video, they got 50 players from it. And I think that this is part of the problem, is that there's just such a fundamental disconnect between some of these marketing people and the actual gaming community that it leads to ridiculous amounts of wasted money and resources, and also the developers' time. Like the developers that worked on King of Meat, they put together a solid game. Like it was pretty good. It was clever. I just think it needed to be harder, because when we played it, it was just, there was no challenge. And so it felt like a game for kids, which I think is what they were trying to build. But I think if they had been in touch with like actual feedback from players, I think they would have realized, we're not going to win against Roblox. We should reorient and build the game to try and build it for an older audience and make it more difficult, more challenging, and then market it not through Mr. Beast, but through somebody else or some other way that will be a better use of money. But instead they wasted millions and millions of dollars on that. It ended up the way that it did. And so it sucks that, you know, a very talented group of developers can have years of their work basically wasted because some marketing people don't know what they're doing. But that is a story as old as time, unfortunately. And in this case, I think what Charlie's going to touch on is precisely that. The choice to put Highguard in the final spot, I think, was such a tactical miscalculation that it probably did the game a lot more harm than good.
I think he oversold this one a bit, to be honest with you. Though, one that people point to is from last year where he revealed Okami. I do not think that's a good example of that, because that is not overhyped. That genuinely is extremely exciting. I fucking love Okami and cannot wait for the new Okami. But he does have a history of doing that occasionally, and last night was one of those examples for the final reveal.
Our final world premiere comes from 61 members of the team that built Apex Legends and Titanfall. 4 years ago, the principals founded a new independent studio with the hopes of pushing the shooter genre forward with a new original game.
If that doesn't put a boner in your trousers, nothing will. You cannot have a more hype introduction than that right there. Those sentences alone could make the Grinch's heart grow 3 sizes. And when I was watching this live, I actually thought for a moment we might be seeing a Titanfall 3 or, at the very least, a spiritual successor to Titanfall. But that's where they get you. Jeff
Yeah, I think everybody thought that. I think it's pretty clear that's what's being suggested.
Scotchy eating out of the palm of his hands right now. You're hook, line, and sinker buying into this delusion. Like I have said for a long time, we will probably not see a Titanfall 3. Unfortunately, I think EA is going to Kegel on that property forever and never use it for anything ever again because they didn't perform financially well for them. Even though these games are beloved, I don't think we'll ever see a new entry into this franchise.
Yeah,
but I really was.
Well, it's people love Titanfall 2, but it didn't. As far as I'm aware, I don't think it sold well, didn't it? My understanding is it didn't sell well, and so that's all they care about. They're like, yeah, talk about how much you love it online. Should have bought it. I think that's what EA's doing.
Starting to buy into the fantasy here because he's mentioning that a lot of people responsible for those masterpieces have broken off and are now pursuing something new together. And you're expecting like maybe it's in a similar vein to Titanfall. You know, Professor Utonium's in the lab and he's putting together all the ingredients of the perfect little shooter. But that wasn't what was on the menu.
Sure wasn't. Thank you for the super chat about Directive. I'll talk about that after we get through this. Don't worry. I'll get to it. Got you.
Instead, what was served up on the plate was a seemingly standard hero shooter. Now, I always have a great time watching the Game Awards. This year, I also had a lot of fun watching it. I just really don't understand why they would save this game as their final reveal, which is like always the most important reveal because it's the one that sticks with the viewers the longest.
It's the biggest,
it's usually reserved for the one that's going to fucking have them, you know, gushing grannies. And having a generic hero shooter be in that place feels really odd, and a lot of people have been kind of clowning on it for it.
Bringing the heat. The light belongs to me. Warning.
I mean, Concord with horses
Velvet
isn't
Patterns
crazy, I
donated
think.
20 euros through Super Chat. Is there a more locked down market than the games for kids market? Fortnite and Roblox have the mainstream market locked down. Warzone has the stragglers, and the rest of the child audience are vested in random
PC games. I think so. Like a lot of it is that, like, shocker, kids don't have $60, $70 or $40 or $30. They don't have expendable income because they're children. And the parents know that too. And the parents have become accustomed to the kids just playing the free games with their friends. Like, you know, maybe they have a Game Pass subscription or something for their kid, but it's not like they have a monthly allowance to buy new premium live service experiences, you know? So those younger kids are going to stick with what they know. And that's the crazier thing. King of Meat's a $30 game. So they're trying to appeal to like the Roblox crowd and the Fortnite crowd with a $30 premium game. Like, what? Like, again, I feel like anybody could have told them, what are you doing? This will not work. But they have, like, I'm sure 15 slideshows from some marketing firm that they hire that says, well, actually, we think that the market crossover between Roblox and Fortnite is actually at 16%. And if we can come in and claim 4% of market share, this game will be worth $13 billion and be the next Star Wars. And it's like, stop it. Again, it reminds me so often of that Jeff Bezos quote where he said, often if the data and the anecdote disagree, the anecdote is right and something's wrong with the data, either how it's collected or how it's being interpreted. But if the data and anecdote disagree, usually the anecdote's right. And if in this case they have all this data to suggest that King of Meat's actually going to be really successful, that actually look at all the people playing Marvel Rivals, look at all the people playing Overwatch. If we can get just 5% of those people, we have a successful game. We're popping off. But they're using all this data and they're using all of these different crossing over demographics to try and justify it, when the anecdote from everybody else is just like, yeah, I think that the hero shooter genre is overdone. I think it's oversaturated. I don't think we need a new one. Like, if they just listened to that, it would have, I think, saved a lot of time and headaches and a lot of money. But again, I think it's also exacerbated by the fact that they announced this when they did at the last slot. I think that changes the expectations.
It does give me a similar vibe to Concord when that was revealed, unfortunately. And a lot of people have taken to calling this Concord 2. Even though the game's not out or anything yet, it does kind of have a lot of similar DNA to it from the look of the gameplay here. And it just feels like a game that shouldn't have been saved for last as like the big oorah. This should have just been a game that they show somewhere in the middle or towards the beginning, where it's like, hey, this game's also right around the corner if you want another hero shooter, like if you're really salivating for more hero shooter action.
Yeah, and if they kind of owned it, and if they were like, yeah, we have something, these guys are from, like, they worked on Apex, they worked on Titanfall, shooting mechanics are great, it's free to play, check it out. If they had done that earlier in the show, no problem. Like, seriously, the poll from Jeff was 37% of people voted a D or below for the Game Awards, which I think is crazy because they had a lot of really good stuff in the show. But I think it literally is just that because people, like, that's how they were left, and that was the last bite of the meal they had, they kind of forgot about everything else. You know, you have a great steak, it's wonderful, it's delicious, well cooked across the board, but then that last bite is just gristle. It just leaves not a bad taste in your mouth. It still tastes delicious, but it feels like, oh man, you know, it just doesn't click.
Here comes Highguard. Like that.
Then you eat shit for dessert. Exactly, Kinomask. Exactly.
Like, that makes sense. It just doesn't really compute why they would have this be the final reveal. I think what would have fit here best actually was the Star Wars KOTOR game.
Yeah.
They have a new
FOTOR, or the Larian game could have been really, really cool. Either of those as the final announcement would have popped off, dude.
Tour coming out called Fate of the Old Republic, and that was extremely hype. I think if they had saved Fate of the Old Republic for the final reveal, that would have been a big pop-off moment, because that is something that a ton of people, myself included, cannot wait for. And now I need to go back and replay KOTOR 1 and 2, because it is so cool. That is something people have really wanted. Whereas with Highguard, I feel like there's more people asking for the common cold than more hero shooters. And especially from such a talented team that have put together games like Titanfall, you would hope that they'd spread their wings a bit more than just like a hero shooter game. So it's just one of those things that is...
Well, I think what it is like studios struggle to find funding unless you go to a publisher and say, we're making like the next hero shooter. Do you remember the Kroby Cat video when he was talking, or when he clipped Lawbreakers? In this, there's a moment where Cliff sits down and says,
archetypes that other shooters. I went around and met with EA, Activision, and Ubisoft, and I put the book down and I'd be like,
I want to make the next $1 billion IP.
I want to make another $1 billion IP.
That's how you get funding. You say, oh, we want to make a narrative shooter that takes DNA from Titanfall 2 and the old Halo games, and we want to put it in a pro-consumer package with no microtransactions that just focuses on player fun and engagement. Who's going to give you money? Who's going to give you $50 million? Nobody. But if you say, we're going to try to make Overwatch, we're going to try to make the replacement for Tarkov, we're going to try to, you know, if you come out and you say, look at this live service game that makes ridiculous money, we're going to do that, but make more money than them. Then you'll see a lot of venture capital guys and publishers throwing money at you because, yeah, it's only like a 5% chance that it works. But the payoff with that 5% chance is so great that it's worth gambling. The risk outweighs, or the potential reward outweighs the risk. And I think that's how this ends up. It's like, why don't they spread their wings and fly a little bit more? Why don't they try new things? It's literally because the only way to get money to make the game is by doing this.
EA, Activision, and Ubisoft, and I put the book down and I'd be like, I want to make another $1 billion IP.
That's what it takes. Yeah, I think that's why they don't experiment more.
Is underwhelming for a final game reveal. Anyway, though, I had a great time watching the Game Awards, as I do every year. It's become a tradition, and I always think Jeff Keighley and his team put on a really impressive and really entertaining show, and I really appreciate all the hard work that goes into it. Though I will say, I think this year there is a lesson to be learned in the amount of nominations a game can get. With the E33 sweep, I do think there maybe needs to be some kind of limitations in place.
One very valid and I want to know what you guys think about this in chat. One, I think interesting pitch was that some people said that they should, if you're nominated for Game of the Year, there's like a limitation where you can only be nominated for one other subcategory or no subcategory. Because naturally, if you're the best Game of the Year, you probably also have like the best music. You probably also have the best action adventure game within that subset. Like, it's weird if a game wins Game of the Year, but it doesn't win best action adventure. You know, of course it's going to win. I thought it was the best game, which means if it wins best Game of the Year, it also is better than all the other games in its subcategories. You know, the one exception being like with music, you could technically have the best game, but maybe not the best music, you know, so I could see that. But it gets tough because otherwise you just end up with a lot of games that sweep with some years, which could be like, it can be frustrating. The flip side of it is to just say it was like the best game. It had the best music. It had the best gameplay. It had the best this and that. Why not reward it for everything, you know? I would say, like, I'm more inclined to just be like, let it ride. Let it ride. You know, if a game is so good that it sweeps, great. You know, you're encouraging games to be that good, you know? But I can understand why people are frustrated by it, you know, by the sweeps. But that's just what happens. I do think overall, again, it was a very good show. And I think they had a lot of really good, really fun announcements. I think it literally, like, most of the complaints right now could have been fixed if they just rearranged a couple of the announcements. As for why they did it the way that they did, the only reason I can think of is that they just had the fatter stack of cash, but I don't know where that money is coming from. Because again, when you pull up the website for the studio, they don't have a publisher listed. So I don't know where the money would be coming from, which makes me think that it probably, like, it very well could have just been that Jeff thought that that was like the biggest game to finish the show with, which seems insane to me. But maybe he honestly thought that this was like the biggest game to finish. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it. But I think the message has been received loud and clear. I mean, at this point, I want to see the Twitter comments. I mean, I don't want to encourage people to be like toxic. Like, these are passionate devs working on a great game. It's not their fault, as far as I can tell, that they were put where they were and that set expectations falsely. I think people's frustrations with the game at this point are not just for the game. It's also because of what people feel like was not put in its place. You know, I didn't get the big announcement I wanted because you were there, when it's not actually, you know, connected in that way. It's like they didn't do anything. They're not the reason why you didn't get Half-Life 3, you know? Like, that was a different thing. They have dirt on Jeff. They have the pictures of him with Miss Piggy. They have the pictures. They threatened to share them with Kojima. Oh man, can't believe we saw Jor. Yeah, like I showed you guys, Jor sent me the videos from the studio. Oh God, I'm sorry. He sent me the videos of them in their seats at the front of the stage. So this was where they were sitting on the left side of the stage. We saw his dome, and then it flips so it mirrors the video. But yeah, he was sitting next to Redberry. I knew. I could tell them. I was like, that's the back of their head. I can see. But look at that. Look at that. There are crazy cool shows. It's just, it's really fun to co-stream it. I'm gonna be real. It's really fun. Really fun. Let's see. I think if you're nominated for Game of the Year, then categories like RPG and action games should be restricted, but not things like art direction or music. Okay, so restrict RPG, maybe action adventure games, stuff like that. But then, like, the problem with restricting them is that it just feels weird, because it's like, say Baldur's Gate 3 launches again, and then you restrict it and you cut them out so they can't win RPG of the year. It's the best RPG of the year. Like, everybody would agree it's the best RPG of the year, but it can't win best RPG of the year because it's restricted, you know? It just, I think you're right. The spins, is that what it is? Yeah, the spins. I think you're right. It just opens a whole new can of worms where people would complain about that, you know? I think that's the problem, is that any attempt to fix it, as far as I've been able to tell and hear, it just sounds like you fix one problem, but then you introduce 10 others that don't actually make anybody happy, you know? He took my thing.